I'm in Vietnam, a country famous for growing the world's finest rice and where communism still lingers in spirit. Here in Nha Trang, the local party members aspire to create a city of prosperity and happiness. Though Vietnam operates with a capitalist economy, communism remains a dream, a unifying ideal. I'll also be talking about the Vietnam War, how the Vietnamese feel about the United States today, and what life is like here overall. Let's dive in. Where did we end up? Vietnam is situated in Southeast Asia on the Indochina Peninsula. With nearly 100 million people, it ranks as the 16th most populous country in the world. As early as the first millennium BC, the region that is now northern Vietnam was home to the ancient Viets. Over its long history, the area saw several Chinese invasions and was ruled by about a dozen dynasties. In 1858, French colonizers invaded. The Vietnamese spent nearly 100 years fighting for independence, which eventually led to the country being split into North and South Vietnam. This set up the stage for the Vietnam War. North Vietnam sought to permanently expel the colonizers, unify the country, and bring it under its control, with support from communist allies like the Soviet Union and China. South Vietnam resisted, backed by anti-communist forces led by the United States. I've landed in what used to be the heart of South Vietnam, the city of Ho Chi Minh. Interestingly though, most locals still call it Saigon, its pre-remaining name. Here's a fun fact. While the name has officially changed, the airport code still remains SGN. Locals say that altering it was complicated due to international regulations. Personally, I think if they really wanted to change it, they would have. Yet, if you ask a local what they call their city, they'll likely say Saigon in everyday conversation. Now, let's take a closer look at how Vietnamese people are faring economically. Vietnam's economy is developing quickly. For example, in terms of GDP growth in 2022, it outpaced both India and the UAE. However, the GDP per capita remains relatively low. In terms of that, it is one of the same level of Algeria or Ecuador. On average, a Vietnamese citizen earns about $290 per month. Vietnam's poverty rate stands at 5%, or about 5 million people. Here, poverty is defined by earning less than $32 a month, about 93 cents a day. That's enough for a single serving of Vietnamese noodles. Earn a bit more, and you're no longer considered poor. In Ho Chi Minh City alone, about 150,000 people live in poverty. If you're planning a trip to Vietnam, it's worth preparing yourself for the local cuisine. For example, in the slums, I noticed residents using rodent barriers. Is that to keep rats out? Yes, it's to protect against rats. Rats are abundant here, but locals have found a way to turn this to their advantage. Rat meat has been considered a delicacy in the South for years. Southern Vietnamese began eating rodents during the war when there wasn't enough regular meat available. Over time, rat meat became widely appreciated for its taste. And surprisingly, it's also lean, diet-friendly even. Today, rat hunting offers local farmers an additional source of income. The best time for rat hunting is during the flood season. As the water rises, rats flee their burrows, venturing into fields where they feed on grasses. That, locals say, enhances the flavor of their meat. In southern Vietnam, particularly in the Mekong Delta, around 3,000 tons of rat meat are sold each year. A kilogram of rat meat sells for about $5, a price that actually makes it more expensive than chicken. You could say rats are a delicacy here. Vietnamese people primarily eat two types of rats. The first is the rice field rat, which is small, weighing no more than 250 grams. The second is the bandicoot rat, which is much larger, sometimes reaching up to a kilogram in weight, a true giant among rodents. However, rats can carry diseases dangerous to humans. For example, rice farmers often use rat poison in the fields. This is why many Vietnamese prefer to buy live rats at markets instead of pre-prepared meat. A rat's live appearance, a lively, healthy demeanor is reassurance that it hasn't been poisoned, much like the way some people are careful when foraging mushrooms. Still, sellers claim that rat meat is perfectly safe to eat if it's properly prepared. The process starts by removing the fur. The meat is then boiled and either fried or smoked to perfection. Now let's head to the market to see if we can find some rat meat. People say they've spotted it here before. Maybe we'll see it too, friends. Although it looks like the market is starting to close, there might not be any rat meat left today. It seems the rat meat stalls have been shut down. We arrived too late. No rat meat today. So, what else is interesting at the market? Well, this part looks good. Sweets, fruits. You can eat all of it. And souvenirs. Lots of souvenirs. It's beautiful. Rats are hunted in different ways here. Some people head out into fields with dogs. Others use bamboo cage traps, and some set traditional traps. Luckily, I didn't need to do any of that. I can see rats! Quick, film this! Over there! Careful, don't scare them off. Rats, rats! We could catch and eat them right now. Oh, they're fighting! Look at them go! This is insane! Do you see them? Come on, zoom in carefully. Don't get too close. It's like a whole rat kingdom here. This is where they are. You could catch them here and eat them. They live right in the grass. Did you scare them off? Damn it, I was trying my best with the wide lens. Well, Igor, I did what I could, so where are they now? Oh, there! I see a massive rat. Look at that thing. That must be a 1-kilogram rat. $5 climbing up the wall right there. I've got an idea how to earn you $5. Get the slingshot ready. There it is, it's coming out. Look at it. Oh, what a big one. You know, if you don't approach them too closely, they're not even afraid of people. Maybe we could bait them. Look, they're about to come out of their burrows. One's poking its head out, watching us. It's scared but curious. There's the little rat face. Ugh, my phone's zoom is terrible at this distance. There it is. Actually, the rats are hiding now, but earlier when we walked through this park, there were about 5 of them, just jumping around and playing. Oh look, a giant one is coming out. And yes, here in Ho Chi Minh, I don't see rats as just rats. I see them as food, because now I know how much rat meat is worth. All these Mickey mice live in their little burrows here. That's where they all are. There's so much rat activity in the grass at night. Rats are everywhere in Vietnam. You'll find them in both rural areas and major cities. Still, I wanted to talk to someone who sells or buys rat meat. So I decided to head north to Hanoi, Vietnam's capital. Hanoi is often called the city on the water. According to the Department of Natural Resources, Hanoi has over 100 lakes and just as many rivers, although many of them have been clogged with waste for decades. Dirty water leads to bad smells, trash, and naturally insects and rodents. The rats here have plenty to feast on. I visited a typical street market in Hanoi. This is what the market looks like. Vegetables and herbs being sold right on the sidewalks. In Hanoi, there's always someone frying or cooking something, with an abundance of street food, mostly rolls. The scene is vibrant and colorful, especially in overcast weather without the harsh sun. Vendors line the streets selling everything from eggs to herbs. From what I understand, most of these street vendors just show up and sell their goods, without any official coordination or permits. In 2023, Hanoi recorded over 2,000 cases of food poisoning. Most incidents were caused by toxins or bacteria in the food. Frankly, it's not surprising. We've seen the kind of water some local farmers use. In Hanoi, it's enough to skip rinsing your veggies or undercook your chicken to get sick. The government is working to improve the situation with inspections and fines for non-compliance. But it's not enough. Often it's the residents themselves who disregard safety protocols. Along the streets, you'll find an overwhelming variety of street food. Street food is immensely popular in Asia. There are countless markets, small shops, and food stalls. For locals, eating on the street is the norm. It's cheap and quick. However, most street vendors likely haven't even heard of health ministry regulations. Hygiene standards are lax. Dishes are often just rinsed or wiped down. And chopsticks are clearly reused. Honestly, it's surprising there aren't more cases of food poisoning. While I didn't manage to find any rat carcasses, it's not just rodents that make it onto the plate in Vietnam. Let's continue the discussion of unusual foods. In the north of the country, dishes made from dogs and cats are more common. I've enlisted help from Gregory, a Vietnamese acquaintance, to find such meat. Is there any dog meat around here? Down there. What about cat meat? No cat meat, only dog. There's only dog meat. So there's no cat meat? Cat is more of a delicacy. It's more expensive. Does your family eat dog meat? No. Do Vietnamese people eat dog meat often? Not much anymore. It's becoming less common. Every year, fewer people eat it. Modern youth especially are moving away from eating dogs and cats. I see. Probably because more people are keeping dogs and cats as pets now. Ah, right. What do you know about Russia? Oh, Russia? I like the great Putin the most. And America? I don't think anything about America. I don't like it. But you've got Mickey Mouse there. Mickey Mouse, that's America. You need Putin here. Do you have a bowl with Putin on? No, just a photo on my phone. Is there any place around here that sells cat meat? Cat meat? Do they sell it here? No. Cat meat is only found in the villages. And dog meat? Dog meat is available at that market over there. Do Europeans eat dog meat? It's inside? Yes, inside. It's inside the building. Is there any dog meat nearby? No dog meat today. It's not for sale. Not today. The market itself was charming. They say they sell dog meat here, but for now, the stalls were closed. It was quiet time. By the way, during quiet time, some people sleep right on their market counters, wrapped in a plaid blanket with a dog print. And over there, on the fridge, there are cat pictures. And look, there's a sign. Tit Cho, that's dog meat. Where? There, Tit Cho. Tit Cho is dog meat? Yes. Oh, they sell live dogs, fresh dogs, and also alcohol. Zilman, that's plum vodka, an infusion. Right. So, they really sell dog meat from live dogs and freshly killed ones? Yes, that's terrible. And the fridge has cat stickers on it, and their owner sleeps wrapped in a dog blanket. What country comes to mind when you hear about dog meat? Most people probably think about Korea. Yes, there's a stereotype that Koreans eat dogs, but nowadays finding a restaurant serving dog meat in Korea is nearly impossible. The tradition has long been phased out of mainstream culture. Maybe in some remote villages, underground spots, or highly conservative areas, you might still find it, but you'd have to go out of your way. In the past, it was much more common. In Vietnam, though, there's no issue with it. It's 2024, and here, out in the open, people roast and sell dog meat without hesitation. Burned, roasted dog carcasses lie right on the trays, in huge numbers. No one feels ashamed about it. The Vietnamese believe dog meat brings good luck, supports cardiovascular and nervous system health, and benefits men's vitality. There are countless stereotypes about the supposed benefits of eating dogs. The government is trying to address this issue, partly because these scenes are quite upsetting to witness. They know it deters tourists and harms the country's image. Slowly, laws are being put in place to restrict the practice. But the people remain undeterred. Step off the tourist paths, and you'll easily find stalls piled high with dog carcasses, ready for anything to be cooked on request. It's a horrifying and repulsive tradition that still persists in Vietnam. Honestly, it looks wild and incredibly unappealing. Another reason the government is pushing against dog meat sellers, aside from the negative impact on Vietnam's image, is the issue of sourcing. Unscrupulous sellers often use dogs of unknown origin, street dogs, strays, and yard dogs. These dogs are killed and cooked, and in some cases, this has led to people contracting rabies after eating the meat. Traditionally, dogs used for consumption were bred specifically for food, much like cattle or pigs. Seeing all this makes you want to turn vegetarian, join an animal rights group, and do something to put an end to it. Let's get out of here, far away. Who's barking? Who's barking here? On one hand, dogs are eaten in Vietnam. On the other hand, they're also kept as pets. Some owners even dye their dogs' ears. Look at this cute dog. She doesn't seem very happy about it, though. My guide Sergey has been living in Vietnam for over a year, but he still hasn't gotten used to this. It's strange how, in Vietnamese society, love for dogs as pets coexists with eating them as meat. You see many people with tiny pocket-sized or fluffy dogs, sometimes 2 or 3 per household, and yet they also eat dog meat. It's as if they love dogs so much they appreciate them both inside and out. It's horrible. And yet, this contradiction somehow fits into the mindset of the average Vietnamese city dweller. Strange. Sergey mentioned that it's not just poor animals some profit from here. A huge number of people who were once unemployed now make a living by selling on the streets. Those who used to beg and wander around, tarnishing the city's image and bothering tourists, now sell goods instead. They still interact with tourists, but now it's as vendors. The streets are filled with sellers. And there's another interesting thing: the lottery. It's less common now, but unemployed people can still sell tickets and make some money. On Hanoi's streets, you can find anything from counterfeit global brands to traditional folk crafts. As Sergey puts it, Hanoi, while being the capital, feels like a northern periphery with its street vendors and outdated buildings. These aren't the only unique aspects of Vietnam's food culture. Before diving into the next culinary specialty, let's take a step back into history. During the Vietnam War, the South actively resisted the communists in the North. The Americans were based in the South, opposing Vietnam's transition to communism. Meanwhile, northern guerrillas, known as the Viet Cong, were highly active in the region. Although the war ended nearly 50 years ago, its legacy remains alive. There is no more gunfire, but veterans still share their stories, and the memory is preserved in memorials and war museums found in almost every city. The Viet Cong era is even reflected in the decor of some cafes. I visited the most famous chain of these coffee shops, Cong Cafes. The name is short for the official name of the country, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. But what stands out isn't the name, it's the interior. The design embraces communist chic and is said to recreate the wartime atmosphere as authentically as possible. It's a kind of Vietnamese retro. Let's take a look. One of the most surprising things in this coffee shop is that they sell seeds. Voila! A whole can of seeds. Now, just don't spill them. Where else would you see something like this? Serving seeds in such a beautifully styled place. By the way, the seeds cost 25,000 dong. Since we're in a coffee shop, it's the perfect time to talk about coffee. In Vietnam, coffee is practically a religion. The country ranks second only to Brazil in coffee bean exports, producing nearly a fifth of the world's supply. Vietnam is also the global leader in Robusta coffee production by a significant margin. Coffee was introduced here by the French in the mid-19th century. It started with small plantations, which eventually grew into a thriving industry, until the war brought it all to a halt. After the war, the incoming communist classes took control of all private industries. Once again, economic reforms came to the rescue. Exports were revived, and production grew at an incredible pace. Vietnam's fertile soil and favorable climate played a big role in this success. The Vietnamese have taken full advantage of these conditions. Today, over 700,000 hectares are dedicated to plantations. That's the equivalent of 10 million soccer fields, or nearly the size of Cyprus. Nearly all the coffee produced is exported primarily to Germany, Italy, and the USA. But that doesn't mean the Vietnamese are indifferent to coffee. On the contrary, locals are avid coffee drinkers. However, we're not talking about the usual Americanos or espressos. Traditional Vietnamese coffee is unlike anything else in the world. One standout specialty is egg coffee. Legend has it that the recipe was created in the 1940s by a bartender in Hanoi. At that time, the Vietnamese were fighting the French for independence, and milk was scarce. To substitute for milk, the bartender added egg to the coffee. The drink became an instant hit, and now is a staple in Vietnamese coffee shops. The recipe has evolved over time. Today, eggs are whipped with sugar or condensed milk, creating the frothy mixture that's added to the coffee. Time to give it a try myself. To form an opinion, you have to taste it firsthand. For the first time in my life, I'm trying the famous Vietnamese egg coffee. I've never had it before. It looks intriguing. At first glance, it resembles cocoa. Let's give it a go. Personally, I prefer pure coffee. I like to savor the flavor of the coffee bean itself, so I usually avoid milk, sugar, or any additives. But here we go. Vietnamese egg coffee. This foam, which takes up 90% of the cup, is whipped with egg white with sugar and what looks like cocoa. It's incredibly sweet, more like a dessert. It feels like drinking a super sweet cake or eating it. Maybe I need to stir it. It's okay, come on through. Everything's fine, no problem. The coffee itself has a dark roast, very bitter and strong. But the coffee beans don't seem to be of great quality, and the drink is overwhelmed by the sweetness. It tastes like a mix of condensed milk, egg whites, and sugar with a hint of cocoa. Honestly, I describe it as more of a cocktail than a coffee. I can't drink this, it's way too sweet. But for those with a sweet tooth, Vietnam is the place to be. Whether it's coffee with condensed milk or egg coffee, which is essentially condensed milk too, everything here is very sweet. You'll love it. In Ho Chi Minh City, I met a Vietnamese student and decided to chat with him to learn more about the local youth. I've enrolled in a special business English course, and I'm almost done with university. I just have one subject left, Chinese. Do you want to move to China or work with the Chinese? No, my major is business English. But we are required to know a second foreign language to graduate. Before entering university, the student had served in the army. It's mandatory for all men aged 18 to 25. I served for 23 months. 23 months, that's about 2 years. Yes, about 2 years. I was in the infantry near the Cambodian border. I'm an army doctor. I was in the barracks most of the time. Everyone in the army gets a special leave. Each person has 10 days over the 2 years to visit home. I'm from Russia. We tried to build communism for 70 years, and it failed, as you know. But I'm curious, what does communism mean to you? For me and most young people here, communism is a beautiful dream. We dream of making this model work here. So it's a dream, not a reality? No, it's an unrealized dream. You can see it everywhere though. In stores, there's McDonald's and people use iPhones. Yeah, Vietnam's economy is very capitalist. When the Soviet Union collapsed, people realized you can't jump straight into communism. What we now have is a market economy oriented towards socialism. We need capitalism to generate wealth and resources. Then we can use those to build socialism and eventually communism. So Vietnamese acknowledge that communism hasn't arrived yet. For example, you do not need to be a party activist to build a career. It's much more prestigious to study or work in the USA. What do people think of the Communist Party? Honestly, they don't think much of it. They don't care? Yeah. For most people, politics is like a casual topic to chat about over a beer. It's like something you chat about with your friend over a beer, but it's not especially relevant to daily life. Many parents still send their children to study in the United States, chasing the American dream. You could call it Western propaganda. It influences people. They see Hollywood, McDonald's, and big corporations like Microsoft and Google leading the world in innovation. Naturally, they want their children to achieve similar success. As we've seen, communism here is still more of a distant ideal. This was confirmed by Gregory, a Vietnamese studies expert. He came here for an internship a couple years ago and decided to stay. If you live here as an ordinary Vietnamese citizen, or just as an expat, you won't even notice it. There's no strict censorship, unless you're a journalist. But if you're a journalist, then there's censorship? Yes, but you have to choose your words carefully. What you talk about, what you say, and who you criticize. Despite this, subjects like Marxism, Leninism, economics, and philosophy are still taught in universities. And these are compulsory subjects? Yes, they are mandatory. My wife, for example, had to study them too. So your wife is Vietnamese, and she studied Marxism and Leninism at university? Took exams and you helped her? No. She'd come home and say, "Man, they've been torturing us with all this Marx stuff again. I'm exhausted." And you laughed at her. Exactly, that's how it was. I see. Traces of communism are easy to find in Vietnam. During my travels, I came across numerous propaganda posters everywhere I went. For instance, this is what Nha Trang looks like, one of the most popular local resorts. And here's a bit of communist propaganda, a reminder of the country we're in. There's a beautiful poster and an arch that reads, I'm using Google Translate, so there might be errors, but I think we'll get the gist. Officers and members of the Nha Trang Residence Party intend to build a city of prosperity and happiness. There you go. Apparently, they know there's still work to be done. The messages continue with valedictory slogans. Warm greetings. 49 years since the provincial liberation. And here's an interesting contrast. A beautiful promenade with people sunbathing by the sea. It's one of the best public beaches I've ever seen. And yet, in communist Vietnam, even here, they found a spot for propaganda. Albeit tucked away in the back, behind some bushes, barely visible. But what exactly is the party trying to convey to the people? Study and explore Ho Chi Minh's thoughts, ethics, and style on self-repression, self-presentation, and drive for development. Wishing you a prosperous and happy country. That's what one poster says, according to Google Translate. Marxism, Leninism, and Ho Chi Minh's thought, the foundation of all actions. Communist Party of Vietnam. And here's a final poster on this propaganda cube. Socioeconomic development, central in party construction is the key to cultural development, is the spiritual foundation and key highlight for national defense security, important and ongoing. However, communist posters don't tell the whole story. Capitalism seems to be taking the lead here. For example, I'm standing outside the local municipal building. Behind me is an ad for Dutch beer, which just swapped out for a greeting message. The previous message celebrated the 93rd anniversary of the Communist Party. We warmly welcome you. It's the 94th anniversary of the Communist Party Foundation. It was founded on February 3rd, 1930. Communist slogans and flags with hammers and sickles coexist here, oddly harmonizing with ads for foreign capitalist beer. The same dichotomy is in other places. For instance, this beautiful building, some local municipality, is adorned with spirited slogans like, "Build a strong Vietnam," "Wholly, selflessly moving forward," "Glory to the Communist Party." Meanwhile, foreign cars line the streets and marketplaces thrive, showcasing all the comforts of a well-fed bourgeois lifestyle. Even in big cities, communist posters coexist easily with Western values. It's fascinating to see how party propaganda and modernity blend. Behind me, there's a sports complex with a rusty, faded poster. I translated it. It says something significant. Party committee of the country's first sports center. Don't be afraid at home. Don't be afraid to speak. Don't be afraid to act. Don't fear taking responsibility, innovation, or creativity. Embrace difficulties and challenges. Reading it makes you want to stand up and belt out a hymn. This quote comes from the political report of the 12th Central Committee of the party, presented at the 13th Congress. Essentially, it urges action over hesitation. And right next to this faded party message, bright, flashy American movie posters. Dune is being advertised alongside cute cats and other eye-catching graphics. This juxtaposition of vibrant capitalism and faded communist slogans perfectly encapsulates modern communist Vietnam. The Vietnamese didn't spare even Ho Chi Minh, or as they affectionately call him, Grandpa Ho. Nearly a century ago, Ho Chi Minh founded the Vietnamese Communist Party, and yet across the country he's still been battling the corrupting influence of the West. Here we are at a beautiful square, surrounded by luxury houses, Chapard, Cartier, and of course the Ho Chi Minh Monument. Presumably Ho Chi Minh envisioned himself standing amidst symbols of communist achievements. Instead, he's at the heart of capitalist indulgence. Around the monument and square are some of the most expensive American and European boutiques. The very things he fought against. In the end, the bourgeois class won. If Ho Chi Minh had known things would turn out this way, he'd likely feel ashamed of his descendants. People casually take photos here, but without much respect. Everyone's smiling, giggling, mocking. What kind of communist grandpa is this? They parody him, point fingers, no sense of reverence. Meanwhile, old guards sit nearby on plastic chairs, sipping juice, chewing seeds or beans. Their job is to ensure people behave themselves, but they're not exactly paying close attention. This area used to house Saigon City Hall, a stunning French colonial building. But the display of bourgeois excess doesn't stop there. Here's a Rolls-Royce showroom. What could more vividly symbolize capitalism and the exploitation of the working class than a luxury car for the elite? It's one of the latest models. Not that I'm an expert, but it looks incredibly opulent. So Ho Chi Minh's legacy is overshadowed by the towering Rolls-Royce showroom. The youth here aren't snapping photos in front of his statue or under the communist slogans displayed nearby. Instead, they pose in front of ads for handbags, clothes, and accessories, watches, Hublot. For a moment, I worried there wasn't enough ideological messaging here. But in a corner, I found a modest stand featuring something timeless and virtuous. We warmly welcome the 94th anniversary of the establishment of the Communist Party of Vietnam, founded on February 3, 1930. However, notice how the stage was arranged. It forces people to trample across the grass to approach it. The display talks about plans for digital transformation. Everything will be fine. There are also people illustrated holding air conditioner remotes, wearing helmets, goggles, all gazing toward the bright future. Though realistically, only one guy on the laptop seems focused on the future. Everyone else is just staring out the window. Perhaps they spotted an ad for some extravagant foreign watch. And then there's Ho Chi Minh again, embracing a young girl, with a dove of peace in the background. At first glance, this feels like a classic image of socialist utopia. But here's a McDonald's, a bastion of bourgeois consumerism. Nearby is a mall with Gucci and Rolex stores. Could Ho Chi Minh, in that iconic embrace, have ever imagined his portrait would hang across from ads for sales and discounts? It's Pride Month in Communist Vietnam. Are they really friends with Russia? In Russia, our government and party fixate on controlling people's sexual orientation, and labeling the rainbow is an extremist symbol. But here in Vietnam, they're unashamedly embracing all of it. That's how it is. This is what we call a brotherly nation. I shared my impressions with Sergey, and he agreed. Vietnamese communism today feels more like a grand tribute to the past. The country has clearly chosen a capitalist path for its development. At the same time, the socialist legacy holds significant value, as many generations still remember it vividly. The capitalist spirit is hard to extinguish, and thanks to it, I stumbled upon some incredible coffee. What's fascinating is how deeply coffee culture has penetrated Vietnam. I discovered an extraordinary coffee shop that looks like a temple dedicated to coffee. The design is a sleek black and white, modern and stylish. They offer unique beans, like Rwandan washed processed coffee, with detailed descriptions on display. There's also Colombian coffee that we've ordered. The most intriguing part? The prices. A cup of this coffee cost 500,000 dong, about $20. This is comparable to high-end coffee shops in Paris or London, where rare and exceptional beans fetch similar prices. But we're here in Vietnam. I have no idea how magical, exquisite, or unique it will be. It's my first time at this coffee shop, and I'm already eager to try what might be Vietnam's priciest coffee. Or will they create with it? I can't wait to find out. Interestingly, they also display the purchase price, $120 per kilogram. They roast it here, and now it's sold for $500,000 dong per cup. It's good coffee, but I'm not entirely sure it justifies the price. Still, it's quite an experience. Let's try the next one. It's good. The most exciting part is that coffee culture has truly taken root in Vietnam. Now, you can enjoy a rare, interesting brew, complete with a story about where the beans are grown, how they were processed, and who roasted them. It's great. As a coffee enthusiast, I find it thrilling to see sophisticated coffee culture flourishing in unexpected places. It's still uncommon in Europe. Even in Europe, it's rare to find such an approach, selection and attention to detail. Under the Soviet Union or here during Ho Chi Minh's time, such bourgeois establishments would have been unimaginable. A proper communist was expected to live modestly, and even religion was forbidden. In modern Vietnam, however, about 14% of the population identifies as religious, according to the census. A third of these are Buddhists, a cultural influence from neighboring China. There are a few holidays. One of the most prominent traditions is the Lunar New Year, when families honor their ancestors by offering fruits, food, and incense. These offerings are meant to nourish their departed loved ones, parents, grandparents, before being consumed at the end of the day. You need to make your relatives happy. The practice includes burning symbolic items to honor past customs. This tradition is rooted in China. To observe Buddhist customs in Vietnam, you only need to peek into almost any open courtyard. What is she showing us? Let's come and see. Oh, look at this altar. What a beautiful setup. Oh, and a little dog. Yes, every home has an altar like this, where they present food and offerings. Seems like they've just cooked it all recently. These offerings are often gifts, meant to be burned, symbolically sending them to ancestors to ensure their favor in the spiritual realm. Typically, cast iron stoves are placed right in front of apartments for this purpose. However, burning such offerings directly on the street is rare. Police may intervene, as it's considered a hazard. Imagine someone living upstairs while these rituals take place under their window. Yes, that's what happens. They don't care about the wires nearby. Spirits are believed to assist with business success if they are regularly appeased. This is my restaurant's talisman. It's a Buddha that brings luck. He protects your business and my money. Ah, so that's for money. And this bottle here, what happens to it? Are you going to open it and drink it? I'll open it for him later. For him? And then I'll drink it. Ah, so you'll drink it. So you open it for Buddha, but then drink it yourself. Yes, this is the Buddha. It's a place for the Buddha. This too? He protects my restaurant. Right, I see. How much is the bottle worth? About $50. 15? $50. Buddha only drinks good champagne. That's why there are $50 champagne bottles next to each of the Buddhas. Ho Chi Minh likely wouldn't have approved of this image, but then again, he didn't live to see the war's end, nor to witness the so-called victory over capitalism. Let's delve deeper into it. Even half a century later, the Vietnam War remains a topic of discussion. Experts, historians, political scientists, and journalists all agree on one thing: the war profoundly reshaped the country. Well, how could it be otherwise? North Vietnam lost over 1 million fighters. The Saigon army suffered 250,000 fatalities, and even by the most conservative estimates, over 2 million civilians lost their lives. Vietnam holds the tragic title of being the most bombed country in history. Such destruction is hard to forget. Scattered throughout Vietnam, you can still find remnants of American bunkers. Even today, remnants of war equipment are unearthed. In Ho Chi Minh, there's even a market dedicated to military artifacts called Dan Shin. This market emerged almost immediately after the war ended. In 1975, authorities permitted the sale of war-related items, and traders began gathering there. They sold everything left behind by American soldiers: gear, uniform patches, and more. It became known as the American Market. I decided to take a stroll through it. Here's a grenade. Who knows if it's live? Not sure about these, too. Let's not test that. There are helmets and other items, but most of it is just Chinese knockoffs, made to look authentic. And they're sold here as if they're genuine war relics. One of the most surreal items I found was a portrait of Putin and Medvedev hanging right there. How did it end up here? There are also Soviet medals and Russian ones. Russian coins. Just coins. The market has since expanded. Beyond war relics, people now come here for electronics, tools, and a variety of Chinese-made trinkets. Most of these so-called artifacts and war remnants are clearly fabricated, likely produced recently in a Chinese or Vietnamese factory, or even a basement. However, they say that if you're knowledgeable about antiques, you might stumble upon something authentic. But in most cases, these items are no different from the souvenirs sold on any touristy streets, designed to appeal to visitors. Interestingly, Americans are among the market's most frequent visitors. They're welcomed warmly because, as one might guess, they bring money. Vietnamese vendors prefer to overlook past grievances when there's a profit to be made. The narrative of Vietnam's conflict with the United States is in the past. Diplomatic relations were restored in the late 20th century, and ties strengthened significantly during Barack Obama's presidency. American delegations visited Vietnam, and both countries signed strategic partnership agreements. Today, the U.S. is Vietnam's largest export market. So they export most stuff into the U.S. So how do the Vietnamese treat Americans on a personal level? Imagine an American tourist flashing their star-spangled passport. It's met with positivity. It's truly remarkable how the Vietnamese have forgiven Americans or the events of the past. They avoid dwelling on history, but are careful not to forget the truth. They won't seek revenge, but they'll always remember. When they see an American, they might recall, "Your grandfathers didn't behave well here." Yet, they don't hold the young Americans accountable, treating them with friendliness and hospitality. While the Vietnam War is no longer a daily topic, its legacy remains visible. Memorials, graveyards of old planes and ships can often be found on city outskirts or in remote areas. In Hanoi, however, a fragment of a B-52 bomber stands prominently in the city center, submerged in Lake Hue Thiep. This plane was shot down on December 27, 1972, during Operation Linebacker II. This operation, conducted by the U.S. military from September 18th to the 29th of that year, aimed to force North Vietnam to sign a peace treaty on American terms. Over the course of the operation, 204 American B-52 bombers dropped more than 15,000 tons of bombs on industrial and military targets. The Vietnamese military managed to shoot down only 15 bombers. 10 crashed in Vietnam, while 5 landed in Laos and Thailand. One of those bombers crashed right here in Lake Hua Thiep. Today, the remains serve as a stark reminder of the massive American airstrikes that devastated the city's infrastructure and claimed over 1,600 civilian lives. It's become a sort of monument. That's all for today, but I'm not saying goodbye to Vietnam just yet. In my next video, I'll show you how people live in Ho Chi Minh City. You'll get a glimpse of the luxurious homes of wealthy Vietnamese residents and the slum areas where people struggle to make ends meet. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. And don't forget to give this video a like, share your thoughts in the comments, post it on Reddit, and send the link to your friends on WhatsApp.